Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So I was just kind of obviously thinking about this upcoming wild card round weekend. And obviously looking at all the teams currently in the NFC playoffs, in the NFC playoff picture, which team, I guess, gives the 49ers the biggest challenge, or I guess you could say are the biggest threat to the 49ers in the playoffs. So obviously, you know, with the Niners having the number 1 seed, and then you go to the NFC, and Dallas is at 2, Tampa's at, or Detroit's at 3, Tampa's at 4. You have, you know, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Rams, the Packers rounding out the 5, 6, and 7 seed. So out of all of these teams, who gives the 49ers the biggest challenge or is the biggest threat to them in the playoffs? So obviously going down the teams, like you look at the Cowboys, and great regular season team, they get to the playoffs and they crumble. And that's really all Dak Prescott. Now, something could change this year. I doubt it. But when you look at the Cowboys, like that is the first team I'm eliminating as a threat to the 49ers. They are not a threat whatsoever to the Niners. They don't bode well with them. They don't match up well. They're not as physical. And the Niners beat them year in, year out, no matter if it's regular season, no matter if it's playoffs. Dak Prescott is discombobulated every time he plays the 49ers, and they are without a doubt not a threat to the 49ers. I think the Niners have their number. They're going to continue to own them. And again, I just don't think when you look at Dallas, and really in all reality, the Niners wouldn't play them until the NFC Championship, and I can't see the Cowboys even getting to that point. So obviously I'm not going to list them as a threat. But then you go to like the 3 seed with the Lions, and the Lions are a good team. Same with Detroit, though. They're not going to match San Francisco's physicality. They do not have enough. Dallas has enough to beat the 49ers. It's just their quarterback crumbles in the playoffs, and their coaching staff is not as good. And Kyle Shanahan has masterclass type of performances every time against Dallas. But with the Lions, great coaching staff. They just don't have enough. They're not experienced in the playoffs. Obviously, you know, I definitely think they can win this weekend versus the Rams. But I think also that game could go either way. But with the Lions, they just don't match our physicality. I don't look at them as a clear-cut favorite to be a threat to the 49ers. And then you go to Tampa Bay, and it's like the same thing. Like, great coaching staff over there. They've done well with, you know, under Todd Bowles. Baker Mayfield's playing at a high level. But I think if San Francisco played Tampa, you know, Tampa would, I think that game would look a lot like the regular season game did, but probably a little worse. The Niners beat them 27-14 in the regular season in a game where, you know, it just was kind of like a domination. I just don't, like, Tampa doesn't have enough. You know, their quarterback is not as good as he should be to beat the 49ers, and I just don't think that would be a good matchup either. So I don't look at, you know, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, or the 4 seed as any type of threat to the Niners. And then you get down to the Eagles, the Rams, and the Packers. So obviously, we'll do matchups first. You know, the Cowboys will be playing the Packers, the Lions will be playing the Rams, and then the Bucs will be playing the Eagles. So, like, I think everybody expects Philly to win, Dallas to win, Detroit to win. But here's the thing. When you get down to the 5 seed with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think without a doubt, Tampa Bay, that's probably the most likely upset to happen. And I don't know what the odds are for the Rams and the Lions, because I definitely think that could be an upset. But I think the biggest favorite in terms of upsetting in the wild card round, I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think without a doubt when you look at the Buccaneers, I think they don't match up. The Eagles don't match up well with them because they are an aerial attack type of team. Now, Rashid White's had a good year, but his good years mainly came from the passing game. And I think without a doubt the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can beat Philadelphia. So don't be shocked if that happens. But either way, you get to Philly, and it's like Philly's not the same team. They played the 49ers, and they lost their identity. They got blown out by the Giants. Like, they're a terrible team right now. They're lucky the skid started later because they would not be a playoff team. They're not playing like a playoff team. I think they're out in the first round. Call me crazy. I think Tampa will beat them. I think the Green Bay Packers are more of a threat to the Niners than the Eagles are, if that tells you anything. But then you get to the Rams, and this is one where you can kind of look at. I think if there's any threat to the 49ers in the playoffs, I think it's the Rams. And I think it's simple. They play the 49ers 2 times a year with being in the NFC West. Sean McVay has beat Kyle Shanahan to go to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They don't have as much talent by any means than the 49ers do, and I think the 49ers would eat them alive and beat them if they truly did play. But I think when you look at all the NFC teams, if I had to give one team the title as the biggest threat to the 49ers, I would probably have to go with the Rams. I just simply think they match up well with the 49ers. They don't have, enough talent, but they play each other 2 times a year. Why wouldn't they match up best, and why wouldn't they be the biggest threat to the Niners in the playoffs? And then, like, the Green Bay Packers, like, they're just kind of there. They're one of them teams that is just kind of there. Like, the entire NFC North is bad other than the Detroit Lions, but thanks to a couple, clinching scenarios, the Packers were able to sneak in. And, again, I just don't see any scenario where the Green Bay Packers are any type of threat to really any team in these playoffs besides maybe Tampa Bay and Philly, just because Philly is that bad. But I don't know. I mean, again, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. I just think when you look at all of these teams, I look at the LA Rams as probably the biggest threat to the Niners. Obviously it was a pretty competitive game week 2 or week 3 when we initially played them. And then obviously in the season finale just last week, starters weren't playing, so you really can't judge that game based off of performance. But no, man, like I genuinely think like the Ram, like Puka Nacua emerged as probably the number 1 option now in LA. Cooper Kupp is still good. He's on the decline, but he's still a good player. They have a run game now with Kyron Williams. Their offensive line is awful shaky, but I think in the end, it can work. The 49ers have a shaky offensive line. The biggest thing with the Rams is their defense. Like their defense is garbage, and that's what's going to hurt them the most in the playoffs. I can almost guarantee you any game they're going to be in the playoffs is going to be high scoring, or they're just going to allow a lot of points. Their defense is their biggest test without a doubt, but I think they really have a shot here this upcoming weekend versus the Detroit Lions. Stafford's going back to Detroit. I think without a doubt, when you look at the Rams, they're a great matchup for the Detroit Lions. That game's going to be a very competitive, maybe even high-scoring type of game. Actually, I definitely expect that game to be high-scoring. But no, yeah, without a doubt, Rams would have to be my choice in terms of them giving the 49ers the biggest challenge going into the playoffs, or I guess the biggest threat to the 49ers in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of was thinking about it, and I was like, I when you look at all these teams in the playoffs, I wonder which team, when you kind of break it down, could be the biggest threat. And to a lot of you guys, it could be the Eagles, it could be the Lions or the Cowboys, but for me, it's the Rams. I just think, again, we only beat them by 7 earlier on in the season, and I get that was earlier on in the season, but it was still a pretty close competitive game, and I think when you look at the Rams, they're going to match up best with the 49ers. There's no other team that I think matches up best with them, and it also helps too, again, like I said, they're in the same division as us. We see those guys 2 times a year, and, they know what this team is about. They know, how to beat this team. They know what it takes to beat this team. So, yeah, man, without a doubt, I think the LA Rams are the biggest threat. But to be honest, I don't think any of the biggest threats to the 49ers currently are in the NFC. I think it's Baltimore. I think it could be Buffalo or maybe even the Chiefs. You guys may think I'm crazy, but Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is a different breed. So really, in all reality, when you look at it, I would say like Baltimore, teams over in the AFC probably are a much bigger threat. But I'm talking about NFC here. Like, which NFC team could beat the 49ers or has the best shot to? And in my opinion, it is the Rams. Now, again, I don't think any team will beat the 49ers. The 49ers should be in the Super Bowl this year. But if there's a team that beats them, in my opinion, it's probably going to be the LA Rams. But I could be wrong, and it kills me to say that because they're a divisional rival and opponent. But they beat us in the playoffs once. They have a pretty solid team. Their defense is shaky, though. That's what's going to kill them. I don't think the Niners will lose to them whatsoever. But I think they'll give them the biggest test. I think they would give them the biggest test. And really the only way the Niners play the Rams is if they win and the Packers lose. Because, again, the Niners will play the lowest seed in the playoffs. So if the Packers win and the Rams win, we're playing the Packers, which is better for the 49ers, of course. But I think the Rams could very well beat the Detroit Lions. And I think, obviously, if they do, they're going to gain some momentum and some steam, and then the 49ers will play them. But again, it's going to be tough to see the Rams beating Detroit, but I think they can. I think it's very possible. So, Rams, in my opinion, are the biggest threat to the 49ers in the NFC playoffs. Let me know, of course, who you guys think the biggest threat to the Niners is in the playoffs. I don't think that's really shocking, though. The Rams, again, man, we see them 2 times a year. They're very well coached. Sean McVay does have a problem when it comes to being able to beat Kyle Shanahan. He simply can't, but he has did it in the playoffs, and the last time he did it was to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think Kyle Shanahan would let that happen again, but when you talk about teams being the biggest threat, it's not the Cowboys, it's not the Eagles, it's the Rams. But yeah, with that being said, as always, go Niners. Of course, let me know who you guys think is the biggest threat to the Niners. Some of you may say the Rams. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, for me, it's the Rams. I think if I had to go with the close second, maybe the Lions. But again, I mean, the only way we're seeing teams like the Cowboys and the Lions and all them type of teams is if it's in the NFC Championship. And I see Dallas losing before the NFC Championship. I don't know about the Lions, of course. I don't know about the Rams. Obviously, we'll see depending on whoever wins that game. But, yeah, Rams, in my opinion, biggest threat.